Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to talk about the character of Captain Picard and why I think he's such a good character in Star Trek, and also what he means to me personally, how he affected my personality, my life. First of all, I think if I were to pick just one character from the entire Star Trek franchise who I think best represents what I think are the best things about Star Trek, that will probably be Captain Picard. Even though he's not really my favorite character, it's kind of a separate thing. I think my favorite character is probably Commander Data, because he's the most interesting kind of science fiction character. He's basically an artificial intelligence and also a robot who wants to be human and who gradually learns and becomes more human. Also, Brent Spiner was so great in that role and he was so funny in so many episodes. So I think Data is probably my favorite character from the whole franchise. But if I were to pick a character who kind of represents what Star Trek is about and kind of represents that vision of an enlightened human and a character with values, a character who is kind of a role model for you if you watch the show as you grow up. That's probably the one character who kind of taught me the most and inspired me the most from all of them. And you know, Star Trek has a lot of good things that inspire you if you watch it as a kid, if you grow up watching Star Trek. It affects you in a lot of good ways. For example, it makes you curious about science, about astronomy, about physics, about biology, all those kinds of things, because whenever they show you something interesting, all of that kind of makes you curious about science and about the universe, maybe some philosophical topics. But in terms of character, I think Captain Picard is the one who kind of inspires you the most to learn about things such as politics, diplomacy, human rights, morality, and all kinds of important values, all kinds of advice for life, all kinds of advice on how to deal with other people, how to deal with societies, with cultures. And he inspires you to learn about history, for example, because you know sometimes he kind of starts to tell you something interesting about the past, about the culture on Earth or some other planet even, and his stories were always very interesting. So he kind of inspires you to learn more about stuff like that. It makes you go and read about those topics and giving all kinds of important life lessons. And so all of that together, I think, makes Picard the most inspiring Star Trek character. And he also represents some of the best things about Star Trek. Its values, its vision for a better humanity is basically like the role model of an enlightened human. Someone who has values, someone who will fight for justice, for equality, freedom, all those nice things. Even though Picard himself is not really a perfect character, I would not classify him as a perfect character. He's not a perfect human being, he has his own flaws. He has a lot of things that he's lacking in. For example, he doesn't like children. He's not a family man. In the beginning of TNG, he always kind of hated children. He's a very private person. He's not too friendly with his officers, more of a closed person. And so Picard is not my example of the best possible human. However, in the field of moral values and inspire you to do better and being almost like a teacher or a fatherly figure, I think he's actually one of the best characters like that from all of television, I think, that I've seen. And on a personal level, you know, I grew up on the show. I was watching it from around age 7. And especially as a kid, it really gets to you. It really affects you because Picard is really a good role model, a really good father figure almost. Even though I have a real life father who is a great dad and everything, but I can't really remember a lot of times in which my dad sat me down and started lecturing to me or explaining to me something about life or about morality or about topics like that. I can't really think of a lot of stuff like that in my childhood growing up, and I don't blame my father. He was a busy man, he was working, he was providing for the family and everything, spending a lot of times with me on all kinds of fun activities, all kinds of entertainment, but I can't really remember a lot of times in which he told me some kind of good lesson for life or some kind of morality tale or any of that. And even my teachers in school, I can't really remember my teachers really giving me some good advice or morality tales. I mean, I'm sure they did do that, but maybe I just didn't listen. You know, in school you don't really pay attention. So I'm guessing they probably did, but I can't really remember it. But when you watch a show like Star Trek as a kid, then you pay a lot more attention to what's going on. And so I think that stuck with me a lot more than anything I ever heard from school or my parents. And so to me, in many ways, Picard was like my spiritual father. It's someone who was like a fatherly figure or a teacher figure. as I was growing up, and I was taking to heart the stuff that he was saying, and I was really invested in all of that. And he really got to me, and in many ways, I do think he kind of made me a better person. You know, if any time I was kind of pondering about what to do, what kind of moral choice to do, I would kind of ask myself, what would Picard do in such a situation? So definitely, I think that character, in many ways, made me a better person in terms of morality and values and that kind of stuff. And you know, as an adult thinking back, I don't think Picard was 100% correct at all times. I do have a lot of examples from some episodes in which I'm not sure he was behaving fully in the right way and all of that, and maybe I'll discuss that in the future. But for the most part, for 90% of the time, he was really giving some pretty solid, good moral advice, and that is what makes him such a great and memorable character. He kind of shows you what kind of humanity we want to see. Humans who care about other people, who care about rights, who care about justice, and who fight for peaceful solutions, diplomatic solutions to conflicts, and try to avoid wars and all of that. It really influenced my political views as well, by the way. Even though I do think that not always it's possible. I think in real life you cannot always solve problems diplomatically or with your intellect. Sometimes you do have to use force, use violence to protect yourself. It's unavoidable a lot of times. And Picard himself also acknowledged that fact in some episodes, and so it's not always so easy as it was on the show. The show was a little bit unrealistic, a little bit simplistic, but that was a good thing if you watch it as a kid. It's a good thing that it's a little bit simplistic, otherwise you wouldn't get it, it would be too complicated. So watching this show as a kid was very inspiring, and I still think a lot of episodes were really brilliant in the way that Picard dealt with all kinds of situations. In a clever way, he was using his brain, not just his muscles, and so that's a great lesson for kids watching, how you should behave as a responsible adult, as a moral person, as someone with values, and how you deal with people, how you talk with people, convince people, bridge people's gaps together, bring people together, all that good stuff, all those good messages on how you should solve conflicts. All of that is the reason why I think Picard best represents the good values in Star Trek and that optimistic vision of an evolved humanity, the way that humans should be acting, should be behaving. So that's why I think Picard, to me, represents what is best in Star Trek. And to me personally, he was kind of a role model, kind of a moral teacher, a father figure who inspired morality and values and made me curious about so many topics like history, politics, diplomacy, and even science, because he was always so curious to solve the mystery. He was always so curious to find out what's out there and all of that. Of course, not only him, and that's true for a lot of characters in Star Trek. The very idea of Starfleet, of the starships going into the unknown to explore space, to find out what's out there, that's a very kind of noble idea. It shows the curiosity of humanity. It shows you and it makes you curious about all of those things out there. It makes you want to study science. But Picard was more than that. Picard made you interested in the human things as well, even more than all that other scientific stuff. And in many ways, the human stuff is more important because it has to do directly with our real life today. It can help us solve real problems today with other people. And so in many ways, it's even more important. And so that's why Picard means a great deal to me on a personal level. And that's why I always wanted to see him again. I was saying for years I want to see Picard back again. I think we didn't have enough of him. We have to see him again at least one more time. And I'm still optimistic about that, even though there are some concerns, some reasons to suspect maybe the new show won't be as good, maybe they will change too many things, maybe they'll change the character himself, he'll not be the same Picard. All kinds of concerns like that that do make me worried, but I think it's better to try and fail than never try ever, and so I am happy we'll see him again, and maybe I'm sure we'll have some good moments with him for sure, and so it will be nice to see that. And I think one of the most important life lessons that Picard gave in a few episodes and in one of the movies, he said that time is a companion who reminds you to cherish every moment because it will never come again. And in one episode he said, make now the most important time because now will never come again. So basically all kinds of messages about valuing your life, valuing the time you have while you have it, and not spend time in vain, invest in things that are important. And maybe seeing him as an older man and seeing how he deals with all of that, how he will want to exploit the time he has left to do some more great things, I think that's also a positive message overall. So hopefully the new show will be good. I'm really praying for it to be as good as possible. and that he will have a lot of new clever dialogue, that he will have some more wisdom to share, some more good messages, some more life lessons, some more good speeches, all that stuff. I love all that stuff with Picard, and so I would love to see more of that, and I hope they do it well. Hopefully it won't disappoint us. So that's all I wanted to say about it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below and we can discuss it, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.